another massive undisputed fight for 135 pounds. Devin Haney and Vasiliy Lomachenko. This one everyone's been waiting for. It's happening. We're finally getting fights that we actually want to see, Bryan, and this is one of them. How do you have this one going?
Speaking of knee-jerk reactions, listen, as soon as the fight got announced, I may have texted you right away. I may have said it right away. Devin Haney wins by decision. That was just my sort of knee-jerk reaction. And then I took time to think about it and really go back and watch Devin Haney versus Jorge Linares and Vasiliy Lomachenko versus Jermaine Ortiz and Lomachenko versus Richard Commey, specifically, the latter rounds when he didn't put him away, but probably, should have earned a stoppage there. Devin Haney versus Yuriorkis Gamboa. I went and rewatched that. And I'm like, yeah, Devin Haney's going to win at some point. I just sort of rock with that the entire time. And, I just think that with Devin Haney, he has the height advantage, he has the reach advantage, but it's also like it very much feels like it's time. And in Lomachenko, I can't get past where you've had a couple instances recently at the lightweight division where he has not looked as dominant as he did at featherweight or super featherweight, where it takes a while to get going. I'm not sure you could afford to do that against an expert counterpuncher, one of the best counterpunchers in the sport, who profiles to some as potentially a young Floyd Mayweather in terms of, fighting style. I don't know if he's going to be that good, but shit, he's on his way to building a great resume, especially if he gets this done. He'll be in the pound for pound list for sure. One that I'm not sure why he's out of it, Ring Magazine, but hey, man, like I think it's a body of work thing, and he's going to get there if he beats Lomachenko. I think everyone would acknowledge that. And ultimately, I think that with Devin Haney, he's going to be able to control Lomachenko a little more because of those physical advantages and because of how smart he is. And he's not somebody who's a big time gambler. What I worry about with Devin Haney is because here's what happened in the Jorge Linares fight, where the first 9 or so rounds, he won about 7 or 8 of those. Then he gets caught at the end of round 10, a round that I think all the judges had him losing, or definitely a lot of people had him losing anyway. And he gets caught at the end of round 10, and Jorge Linares does he's kind of like sort of lets him walk to the ring and is pointing at him and just taunting him or whatever the case may be. It was funny. And he legitimately wobbled. He was buckled, going back to his corner. What happens, Shantelle, if that happens, let's say a minute 34 left in a round as opposed to right at the end of the round, and he doesn't have that extra minute to recover?
Well, so I remember watching that fight, and I remember Linares giving him some problems in that fight as well. The only thing that I would have to say is that fight was a few years ago, and Devin Haney has gotten so much better from that fight. I think it was right after the Gamboa fight that he fought Linares. I could be wrong, but it was very early on. It was a few years ago. And I just think what we've seen from Devin Haney since, because listen, George Kambosos Jr. put on a really good performance against Teofimo Lopez, and he has a little bit of pop. Like, let's give him a little bit of credit here.
Teofimo Lopez, as we talked about, also had not a great game plan for that.
He came in there and was like, "Yo, I'm gonna knock him out." Right? That's literally what happened. I don't even know
emotionally or whatever.
Yeah, and he was like, "I'm gonna knock him out," and it didn't happen. And that's a different story for a different time, maybe when we talk about Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. However, I just think from what we've seen from Devin Haney since that fight, he's gotten way better, man. And even his defense has gone better. You mentioned Money Mayweather, that shoulder roll D, that reminds me of Money Mayweather. And I just think the way that he fought, like the way he moves around the ring. Now, a lot of people kind of thought Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. was a little bit boring at times. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Like the way that his footwork, the way he was able to get out of like the way and stick and move at some times and like land the jab. And that's the thing about this fight, Bryan, is as we know, Lomachenko doesn't start off really fast. He kind of likes to download information, start off slow, get into a rhythm, and then like mid-rounds, then he starts to go. You can't do that against the guy that's going to establish the jab and land the jab so nicely on you round by round. He's going to kill you with the jab early on, right away. He's going to establish the jab, and I think it's going to be similar to what we've seen Lomachenko do, because I'm going to be honest, yes, he won against Jermaine Ortiz. However, at one point I was like, is Jermaine Ortiz going to beat Lomachenko?
Me too.
Because early on in that fight, Jermaine Ortiz was killing it. And I'm like, Loma has to pick it up. He has to pick it up. And that's what I want to see. Is Loma going to be a little bit more aggressive? Sure, if he wants to take the first 2 rounds to download information, sure. But he can't start in the 6th round in this fight because Devin Haney is going to rack up those points. He's going to mix it up. Not only is he going to be jabbing to your face, but he's going to be getting to the body. He's also an elite body puncher that people don't give him credit for. The only knock on Devin Haney that I think people have is people always says that he's got pillow fists in the division. That's what they say about him, right? That there isn't any power, but he's still so young. I think he's under 25, if I'm not mistaken.
24. He'll be 25 later this year.
So I don't even think he's grown into like the man that he's supposed to be in the ring. Like he's still going to establish his power later on. He's going to grow into it. But I just think if Lomachenko doesn't start off early, Devin Haney's going to rack up the points. However, I do think at this point in Loma's career, he has something to prove. And I think we might see a different Lomachenko.
So a couple questions. One, what do you say to people? Because this has been sort of a common thing from what I've gathered. What do you say to people who think that Devin Haney is going to struggle to establish a jab against a southpaw like Lomachenko, who knows it's coming
and has nasty footwork?
Yes. Even though he doesn't quite do it as often as earlier, but when he switches angles, he's elite at it. Do you think Devin Haney's going to have trouble establishing his jab in this fight?
No, I don't, because everything that I've seen from Devin Haney, the skill, the high IQ, I give the high IQ the edge over to Lomachenko, obviously, due to the experience. But everything that I've seen from Devin Haney, I think you could also argue that, and I've said this before, that he probably has the best jab in the division. He just does it so effortlessly. What about you? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think we'll actually see more right hands from Devin Haney in this fight. One, because Vasiliy Lomachenko is a southpaw, but two, if Lomachenko knows the jab is coming, then you're going to have to get creative, right? I also think you raised an interesting point about the body work. I think that's something he's going to need to utilize here to really slow down Lomachenko. But to your point, Lomachenko you can't wait till round 6 to get going.
No,
there was a point that Jermaine Ortiz, by the way, who I think that's a blueprint Devin Haney could follow and execute to a higher degree just because he's better and really take the fight over sooner. And again, like with Lomachenko, he's somebody who, yes, he's not gonna start fast. Neither is Devin Haney, but Devin Haney's also not just gonna give up rounds. There are certain guys who they start off and they download information and they give up rounds in the process. Devin Haney could do all that, but also because he doesn't gamble and can counterpunch you to death, he's not somebody who's just going to give up rounds. He won damn near every round. I had him winning every round of the George Kambosos fight. I think the second
sweep, a full sweep.
Yeah.
That's how I had it.
And the first one, I had him winning all but maybe 2 rounds, right? And George Kambosos he's a very good fighter. Devin Haney's just different, right? Like, it's not like, oh, George Kambosos didn't deserve it or whatever. Like, no, he beat Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo Lopez, I thought, had a dumb game plan. But
the worst.
There
was no game plan. that was the game plan. No game plan.
And George Kambosos took advantage of it, was able to he was the one who remained calm and in the driver's seat and removed his emotions more to the level of Teofimo Lopez, at least had it, and was countering and was doing all those things. And Devin Haney just took him apart across 24 rounds. I thought he won 22 of them. So I just think that Lomachenko, he's just a little bit older now. He doesn't do the same Lomachenko shit all the time where he's switching angles and then you don't see him and he's at your side. Like Jason Maloney talked to us about when he sparred him. Like, it's legit. He's in front of you and then he's here and then he's here. You don't see that as much. And I also think Devin Haney has the facilities to sort of neutralize that a little bit more because he's just smarter than a lot of the guys Lomachenko's fought against.
Okay, so I also want to talk a little bit about Lomachenko before we get into the whole Money Be Green betting preview. We're going to let you know our favorite bets for this fight. The one area where I think Lomachenko could do some damage is because Devin Haney actually does not want to bang with anyone on the inside. Right? We saw him struggle a little bit against Jorge Linares and also Jojo Diaz. When he fought Jojo Diaz started to figure him out maybe by like the 4th round and was like, yo, I'm gonna get on the inside. And he gave Devin Haney some problems. So as you know, Lomachenko, He can fight at you from a distance and he can fight on the inside with you. That's how good Lomachenko is. And he moves around really well. The only area where I'm like, I think I'm going to also give the edge to Devin Haney is if you saw after the Jermaine Ortiz fight when they stood in the ring beside each other, Devin Haney is just physically bigger. Like this guy you talked about, he's probably going to move up to welterweight one day, right? He has to use his size.
Loma called him a heavyweight, I think.
Yeah. Loma was like, and it's interesting because I think Devin Haney's team knows that Loma is probably going to want to bang on the inside. And that's why you've seen on like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, if you've seen both episodes, that they're like, Loma's a dirty fighter. I don't think Loma's a dirty fighter at all. I think Devin Haney's team knows that Lomachenko, if he's going to get busy with you on the inside, Devin Haney, he's going to cause some problems for you. So that's my whole thing. If Lomachenko ends up trying to get on the inside and fighting Devin Haney on the inside, I think Devin Haney's going to have some problems. And I think that's where Lomachenko is going to rack up some points. So those are my final thoughts before we get into the betting preview. Bryan, any final thoughts before we let everyone know our favorite bets for this fight?
To echo your sentiment, just fundamentally, when you have a 5-inch reach disadvantage, you're going to want to bang on the inside because your opponent is not going to want to allow you to do that, right? And Vasiliy Lomachenko, that's going to be sort of the advantage. It's not just the angles and the speed, most of which he still has, but it's also being able to find crafting creative ways to get on the inside. If Devin Haney allows that to happen, we're going to have a close fight on our hands, and I think we should have one either way. With that being said, I think it's time to get to the betting preview.
Nothing beats like playing that twice on one episode. We got to do this more often. All right. So straight up on the money line, Devin Haney is a minus 280 and Vasiliy Lomachenko is a plus 215. It looks like the line has changed. So Devin Haney, a minus 260 and Vasiliy Lomachenko is a plus 215 straight up on the money line. To be honest, taking a look at those odds there, Bryan, I think Vegas is disrespecting Lomachenko because I actually think he has a very good chance in this fight.
If you remember, because we talked about this when it broke a little bit, I don't remember if it was on or off the show, but look, this was closer before. Haney was like a minus, I want to say 170, 80 around
and
the time.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that on the money line. You know what I mean? Because this tells me that they just have Devin Haney as a huge favorite. And so, well, we're going to get into that plus 215. But I mean, if you want to sprinkle on that for Loma to win, if you think there's a chance, those are some very good odds.
Yeah, and look, and if you were a Loma supporter and we're just waiting for the line to grow, then props to you because that grew. This was not this big before, and I think just a lot of money has come in on Devin Haney because of a lot of things we're talking about. The physical advantages, the youth, it being maybe his time, and Lomachenko just kind of slowing down a little bit, although I think we should give some credit to guys like Jermaine Ortiz and guys like Teofimo Lopez. I think Jermaine Ortiz in a different era of lightweight could be a world champion. You know what I mean? Like he's that good, but like there's Shakur Stevenson, there's Gervonta Davis, there's Devin Haney, there's other guys in the division. And it's like, Ryan Garcia was a lightweight at one point, there's just a lot at that division right now, but Jermaine Ortiz is still young enough and maybe he pulls it off. But anyway, regarding this fight, my pick, if we want to get right into it, it was Devin Haney by decision when it got announced. It's Devin Haney by decision now, minus 155. There was a time where this was like minus 125, minus 130 something, or whatever the case may be. So hopefully you jumped at the opportunity. But as soon as the fight was announced, this was my knee-jerk reaction because of all the things we talked about and how skilled Devin Haney is. And I just really respect. I think he has a top 10 or so ring IQ in boxing right now, which to say that about somebody who's at 24 years old, like that could sound like a grandiose statement. Let's also remember he turned pro really early, and that was after a nice amateur career. So I think Devin Haney wins this by decision. I think it's a close decision. I think we might get a 115, 113, probably get a 116, 112. But ultimately, I just think he's going to have Lomachenko at bay. He's going to be able to work the body a little bit and slow down Lomachenko throughout the course of the fight. And I think Lomachenko turns it on late. I do. I still think he turns it on late, gets it going, but I don't think he quite gets enough rounds to really turn this fight in his favor. But, Lomachenko, if you think he's going to win, and if you do, props, because like I very much think he can win this fight. It's not my pick or my knee-jerk reaction, but if Lomachenko wins, I wouldn't be totally stunned. It's not every time in boxing that the younger, bigger guy comes along and just knocks off somebody else who's just older. We saw we've seen other instances where the older fighter has been able to be like, hey, no, this shit isn't yours yet. One famous example being Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez was a little too early to get to Floyd Mayweather, and then Floyd Mayweather picked him apart, even though one judge scored that a draw. But Lomachenko to win on points is plus 330. That's an interesting sprinkle. You could actually play it both ways if you really want to. And Lomachenko to win by knockout plus 800. If you saw the Jorge Linares sort of not knocking down, but stunning and wobbling Devin Haney, and you think that's something Lomachenko could try to exploit. And if you think there's something there, then so be it. The books don't think Devin Haney is going to win by knockout, though. That's plus 700. They don't see a knockout either way. Nope. They think this is going to the cards, Shantelle.
Yeah, I don't see a knockout either. I don't think Devin Haney knocks out a guy like Vasiliy Lomachenko. I actually think this is going to be a pretty close fight, but I do think that Devin Haney right away is going to be able to establish the jab. I also think he is going to use the right hand a little bit, and he's going to mix it up because that's what Devin Haney does, and he's going to use his size to his advantage. I think by the mid-rounds, like classic Loma, he's going to start to pick it up probably in the 6th round because that's what we've seen Lomachenko to do. And I think he's also going to have some success. I think he's going to try to bang with Devin Haney on the inside. And it might be something like that Jorge Linares fight where he kind of even gets him on the ropes. Because there's one thing that Lomachenko knows how to do, and that's cut off the ring, right? So he might be able to because his footwork is immaculate. But I just think Devin Haney is going to be able to do Devin Haney things. And at the end of the day, he's going to have more points than Loma because he's going to start earlier than Loma. So I could see this fight being 115, 113, 116, 112. And I probably think it's going to go like that. I think 2 judges are going to have 115, 113, and the other judge is going to have 116, 112. That's how I think it's going to go. And I think it's going to be in favor to Devin Haney. But I would not be surprised at all if Lomachenko won this fight. I just think this is Devin Haney's time. And this is kind of him just establishing him for sure on that pound for pound list because everyone talks about how maybe his resume isn't up to par, but he's undisputed. And this would be his biggest win. To have a guy like Lomachenko on your resume, that's massive. That's why I really don't ever say anything bad about Teofimo Lopez. Because he did it essentially in Lomachenko's prime. However, Loma was hurt. We all know about that. He had some shoulder issue, but nonetheless, Teofimo Lopez beat him. But this is not about Teofimo Lopez.
Next month will be.
Yes, and obviously we have a lot to say about him. But for Devin Haney, I just think that he's too skilled. He's going to use his size to his advantage, and he's going to really mix it up. I don't think we give enough credit to Devin Haney on the body work that he does. He's actually an elite body puncher. But when Loma does close the gap, and Loma will close the gap because he's Lomachenko, he's going to give Devin Haney some problems, but I think it's going to go to the scorecards, and that's why I'm going to roll with Devin Haney by decision, just like Bryan, at minus 155. However, if you do believe Lomachenko can get this W, I would just bet straight up on the money line. Or you could even bet with Loma by decision because that's how
Plus
he would
330.
win. I don't think Lomachenko is going to knock out a guy like Devin Haney. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I do, if Loma does win, you could just take him by decision. And plus 330, there's some really good odds there. I might even sprinkle on that, but probably not because I really think Devin Haney is going to win. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's one of those things where it's like I want to sprinkle on Loma because I'm a fan of Loma and we've seen Loma for such a long time. But I just think he was way better at 126 and 130. And it's just Devin Haney's time. So I'm not going to you know what? I might just sprinkle on the money line. Maybe $2. Maybe $2 straight up on the money line. Like what's $2, right? Because I think if Loma does get on the inside, he is going to cause Devin some problems because Devin, he doesn't want any smoke on the inside.
I think my sprinkle will probably be Lomachenko on points because that's plus 330 and you just get more juice there. Some of the other bets I'm looking at because I'm going through the specials, Devin Haney to win in round 11 to start minus 185. Not a ton of value there, but that's something that probably will happen, based on how we think this fight's going to go. If you think Lomachenko is going to win on points, you could obviously take him on points plus 330. You could also take him plus 280 for Lomachenko to win in round 11 to start.
A lot of good value for Loma. A lot of good value there for Loma.
If you think Lomachenko is going to get a late stoppage, you could also bet him by knockout. I wouldn't do that. Here's an interesting one though, because we don't think there's going to be a knockout in this fight, but 1+ knockdowns in this fight plus 350. Is that worth it?
I don't
Look,
think so.
anything can happen in this sport still.
It's true. It's true. And
And
they're both
Lomachenko has been dropped by Jorge Linares, who's actually rocked both of these dudes before.
yeah, and Lomachenko ended up winning that fight though. It was immaculate. Like it was an immaculate
TKO
performance, man.
round
It
10.
was. But here's the thing. I don't think either of these guys are going to be dropped. I think it's just going to be like a beautiful performance from both of them. I think we're just going to see boxing at its finest between these two guys in the ring. And I think Loma is going to pick it up in the later rounds, but that's going to be his Achilles heel. He has to start earlier. And if he does and he bangs with Devin on the inside, hey, I could even see this being a draw. And I said draw twice, but you never know because they like Loma in Vegas.
I could totally see. I'm gonna look to see if I
because who wouldn't want to see this fight again? I would like if there was like a rematch, if it was a draw, like who wouldn't want to see that?
You know what? I'm gonna get back to a draw in a second.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's do that now. Let's do that now. Because I actually do want to see this. So a draw for Devin Haney versus Vasiliy Lomachenko is plus 1,600.
I'd sprinkle on that, baby.
I would, because I also could very, very much see this being a majority decision as opposed to a unanimous decision in Devin Haney's favor. Like you get your 114, then you get a 116, 112, maybe another 116, 112, or 115, 113 if there are no knockdowns. This is an interesting one. I just want to throw this out there. This is plus 10,000, but I actually don't think it's that ridiculous. It's a little ridiculous, but who knows? Devin Haney to win on points and both fighters to be knocked down.
That's why it's plus 10,000. Okay, that's crazy.
That's not one that I could talk you into. Okay, fine. But I agree when you say, like, I expect this to be a beautiful performance as well. I think this is going to be high level boxing. These are two of my favorite guys to watch.
Yeah.
And I think Devin Haney not just has next, but has now. He's that good. And I think for Lomachenko, I would just like to see him put forth a great performance because he's clearly like getting to that point in his career. I don't think he's going to hang around like super long.
Yeah.
But he's getting to that point in his career where it's like, all right, how many more big fights is Lomachenko going to have left? Because as a pro, he came out the gate. He was fighting for a world title, his second fight. So it feels like we've been watching him for a long time. And he had the 400 fight amateur career. And is somebody who's in his mid 30s now. So you wonder how much longer this is going to be. So this could be his last chance at a world title. We don't know that. But, I don't want to take for granted the fight we're about to see, because I think in terms of a tactical fight, this could be the fight of the year. And I like that they're actually hyping it up on social media as like this chess match, because I feel like it makes a ton of sense.
Love it. And you know what? I actually think Loma's hearing everything everyone's saying about him getting older.
Agreed.
And how it's Devin's time. And I bet you that's pissing him off. The one thing I do want to say is if you've seen, no, I'm serious. It's probably like, because he doesn't feel like he's finished, right? Like Loma doesn't feel that. But I also think like we've seen a lot on Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We've seen at like the press conferences, like Devin Haney talking all this smack. Devin Haney's a nice guy. I don't buy it. I think he likes Loma, and I think Loma likes him, and they're just two really good guys. Like you can just tell that. And so every time they're talking smack to each other, I just don't buy it. And I'm like, just get in the ring, guys. Just stop the nonsense. You know what I mean? Because they're just nice guys, if you can tell. So it's also hard because you want both of them to win, but that can't be the outcome for this one. And so yeah, leaning towards Devin. I think it's his time. And honestly, we talk about the face of boxing, and Devin's one of those guys that's in that running, along with Gervonta Tank Davis, along with Shakur Stevenson. Like we're in a very good era. And it seems like these guys actually want to fight each other, right? Like we just saw Tank and Ryan. We're seeing Devin and Loma. And I think we got to give Devin props for taking this fight. I don't think we give him enough credit, man, especially what he did against George Kambosos in Australia, the way he won his undisputed belts. This is something we got to give him credit for. He's not afraid to fight anybody. And I think we need to give him credit for that.
That's something he mentioned on First Take with Stephen A. Smith this morning. The last thing I will say about this fight is I don't think that the winner will have a hard time getting an opponent after this, because Shakur Stevenson is right there and waiting.
and that's another blockbuster fight.
And that's super exciting to me, because I feel like Bob Arum just talked about like the reasons why. The interview came out, reasons why he doesn't want to do Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis right now. and basically talked around what I think is the real reason, which is that Shakur Stevenson is waiting online next for the winner of this fight, which blockbuster, as you said, can't wait for that. But looking forward to a great fight weekend. We have 2 undisputed championship bouts. Let us know what you think is going to happen, as Shantelle would deliver at this part of the show. She's going to do it better than I just did.
No, I'm not going to do it. Follow us at the Mandatory TKO, though. Subscribe to our show. Like our video. Thank you so much for everyone that's rocking with us and everyone that's not rocking with us and leaving comments that we're not really messing with. We appreciate you, too, because like Joe Budden said, I got a couple of haters and I got to acquire a few more. That's what I'll leave you with here today. Bryan, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Subscribe to the channel. We need your support, and don't be a dick.
Yeah, bye guys. Bye.